focus. I think it's out of focus.
It will be fine, inshallah.
No, it's not focusing really.
It will be
Okay.
fine, inshallah. بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم. Is the microphone working? Is it working good?
Yeah.
Other one is being it's being a little bit too dramatic. Last week we were reading Surah
al-Jinn.
al-Jinn. What was the last ayah we read?
15. I think we finished.
Yeah, Sheikh.
No, I think we almost finished.
No, we read. We read up to the 21st ayah. And these, the ayahs we read before, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that the jinn testified or described that when the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala arose invoking his name, everyone else stood up in outrage and gathered together against him, like the people of Nuh, as we read in the previous ayah. And that this servant of Allah, all he said was قال إنما أدعو ربي ولا أشرك به أحدا. And he said, or was commanded to say, I'm not doing anything objectionable. All I'm doing is I'm invoking the name of my Lord and not invoking anyone or anything alongside his name. And then the Prophet ﷺ was commanded to say, there's no reason for you to get in such an outrage against me, or to plot against me, or to try to do anything to stop me. I don't have the power to harm you, and I can't save you. I can't cause your doom, and I can't cause your salvation. قُلْ إِنِّي لَا أَمْلِكُ لَكُمْ ضَرًّا وَلَا رَشَدًا. I don't have power over to harm you or to bring you good fortune. That is the last ayah we read.
Yeah.
Continue, Khalifa.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Before you read, you brought up something last week, and there's another understanding or another tafsir of this ayah. كَادُوا يَكُونُونَ عَلَيْهِ لِبَدًا, that they swarmed around him. Another tafsir that really is that the ones who swarmed around him were the jinn, in order to listen to the Quran. Wallahu a'lam, yani these are two different meanings, and we can't combine them. The ayah either means one or the other. But even this other tafsir, the context of the ayah is not against that either. Even if we understood that ayah to mean that the jinn were swarming around the Prophet ﷺ in awe of what they were hearing, it's as if the next ayahs he was commanded to say, it's not about me. Me personally, I can't benefit you. I'm not I have no special power over you in myself. I can't benefit you. I can't do any good for you, and I can't harm you myself. So even the context is not against that, but Allahu a'lam. There are other clues in the context of the ayah, and the old tafsir from the earliest generation seem to lend support to the first understanding, that it means that the people of the Prophet ﷺ arose in outrage against him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Continue.
قل إني لن يجيرني من الله أحد ولن أجد من دونه ملتحدا.
And the Prophet ﷺ was commanded to say, not only can I not harm you or save you, me, myself, no one can grant me protection from Allah, and I have nowhere to hide from Him. The word yujirani is from jiwar. What is jiwar?
Neighborhood? Protection.
It's jiwar is a protection, and this the Arabs, because they're living like kind of anarchy, not exactly anarchy, but not like there's not no government. There's something called jiwar, and that's if there's if someone is traveling or passing through an area, a person who has power in that area can give that person jiwar, and that means if you mess with that person, you mess with the other person. So that other person gives that person protection, his protection. And for example, that happened to the Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr wanted to make a hijrah to where?
Habsa?
Yes, to Habasha, to Abyssinia. And when he was on his way up, there was a man named Ibn Daghinna. There was a man named Ibn Daghinna. He was a prestigious man among the Quraysh. And he said, it's a person like you, there's no excuse for you being driven out of your land. And he gave him jiwar. And also, when the Prophet ﷺ came back from Ta'if, he almost wasn't able to go back until somebody gave him jiwar. Who was that person?
Umayyah?
No. No, Umayyah was...
No.
Al-Mut'im ibn Adi. His name was Al-Mut'im ibn Adi. And his son, Jubair ibn Mut'im, became Muslim much, much later. No. The meaning of this is that the Prophet ﷺ was commanded to say that me, myself, I'm helpless before Allah. No one can give me that. No one can give me, myself, a guarantee of safety before Allah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, what is the ayah? وَمَنْ يُجِيرُ وَلَا يُجَارُ عَلَيْهِ. He is the one who has the authority to grant safety to others. No one can grant someone else safety and protection from him. But he can grant protection and safety to who he wills. No one can protect me, can grant me safety from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَنْ أَجِدَ مِن دُونِهِ مُلْتَحَدًا. And I can find no place to hide from him. The word multahad is from... Yes. Laht. What is laht?
Grave.
Laht is a hole. It's a hole. It's like juhar. It's a hiding place. A hole that like an animal hides in. And the way that the Muslims bury their dead is in a laht. Because the grave is not straight down. It's straight down and then the body is hidden to the side. And there is ilhad, which means one of the meanings of ilhad is to hide. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about Mecca, وَمَنْ يُرِدْ فِيهِ بِإِلْحَادٍ بِظُلْمٍ نُذِقْهُ مِنْ عَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ. Yani, whoever tries to use the haram as protection for wrongdoing, we will give them a painful punishment. Multahad is a place to hide. Continue.
إلا بلاغا من الله ورسالاته ومن يعص الله ورسوله فإن له نار جهنم خالدين فيها أبدا.
the Prophet ﷺ was commanded to say, in the previous ayah, the ayah before the last one we read, the Prophet ﷺ was commanded to say, لا أملك لكم ضرا ولا رشدا. I have no power to harm you or to save you. This ayah is a continuation of that ayah. It's 2 ayahs before. I can't save you and I can't ruin you. The only thing I have the power to do is to deliver messages from Allah. I can only deliver, I can't save you and I can't ruin you. I can only deliver what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me, that is His messages, these words from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَنْ يَعْصِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ فَإِنَّ لَهُ نَارَ جَهَنَّمَ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا أَبَدًا. And whoever disobeys, whoever rebels against Allah and His Messenger, that is what harms him. That is what leads to a person's ruin, not me personally or individually. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَكُلُّ إِنسَانٍ أَلْزَمْنَاهُ طَائِرَهُ فِي عُنُقِهِ. Every person, we have hung his fate around his own neck. What leads to a person's salvation or their ruin is whether they accept the message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or they ignore it and disobey and rebel against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger. That's what can lead to your ruin, not me personally. I can't control that. وَمَنْ يَعْصِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ فَإِنَّ لَهُ نَارَ جَهَنَّمَ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا أَبَدًا. Whoever disobeys and whoever rebels against. And the meaning of isyan here is, it's sometimes a ma'siyah can be like a sin. That's not, obviously not the meaning in this ayah. The meaning is isyan. It means like a rebellion, a defiance. Whoever defies or rebels against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger, then they led to their own ruin. They will have the fire of hell to remain there for eternity. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that. Continue.
حتى إذا رأوا ما يوعدون فسيعلمون من أضعف ناصرا وأقل عددا.
The first 2 words in this ayah, حتى إذا. What does حتى mean?
حتى حرف نصب.
What does it mean? He
حتى
said
when or if the or
it means until. That word alone, حتى, it means until. They call it حرف غاية.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when you say until or حتى in Arabic, just by itself, it means something is happening until this point and then it stops. But in Arabic, حتى إذا, حتى, those 2 words together, that's a different phrase. The meaning of until is not there anymore. And it's, wallah alam, it's like we talked about if, and how if is like a story starter, like a flashback into the past. It's like حتى إذا is a fast forward into the future, like to change the scene or to move into the future. And it's almost like the closest is like saying, and then, comma, when. But the meaning of this until is not there really anymore. There are many, many examples of that in the Quran. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, هُوَ الَّذِي يُسَيِّرُكُمْ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ. He's the one who sends you out in the land and at sea. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, حَتَّى إِذَا كُنْتُمْ فِي الْفُلْكِ وَجَرَيْنَ بِهِمْ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, described how people may be in a storm at sea. It doesn't mean that He sends you out and then it stops once you're in the storm. It's like changing the topic or moving on to a different topic. And there is also Even for example, in the end of Surah Yusuf, the last ayah, or the second to last ayah in Surah Yusuf, حتى إذا استيأس الرسل, there's not even anything before that you can say was, if you read that surah, there's not even anything before that you could say, and led up to that point. And it's as if, Wallahu a'lam, yani, this ayah in this surah is like, and this phrase, it signifies like almost a change of subject. Perhaps it's as if, I mean, these ayahs aren't directly connected or related to the previous ayahs, but the message in these ayahs at the end of the surah go back to the situation in which this surah was revealed in the previous surah. From what we know, this surah was revealed around the time after the Prophet ﷺ came back after being rejected in Ta'if. And this was after the year that they call, yes, Am al-Huzn, the year of grief or sadness. This was one of the most difficult years for the Prophet ﷺ when he was, the persecution of the Quraysh reached its peak, and the Prophet ﷺ was at, from the standpoint of people, who was at his most vulnerable. And the Quraysh were at their most arrogant and confident. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayah says, there will come a time, eventually there will come a time, حَتَّى إِذَا رَأَوْا مَا يُوعَدُونَ, there will come a time when they see what they were warned, what they were promised. فَسَيَعْلَمُونَ مَنْ أَضْعَفُ نَاصِرًا وَأَقَلُّ عَدَدًا, then they will know, they will realize whose army was weaker, whose forces were weaker, and who was fewer in number. At the time, they were very bold against the Prophet ﷺ because they enjoyed great power, and the Prophet ﷺ and the few believers were few in number and weak. From what Quraysh could see. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, anyone who is on the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the angels, they are on the side of strength. They are on the powerful side. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, eventually, even if they're deluded and overconfident now, they will see what they were promised, and then they will realize whose army was stronger, whose forces were stronger, and who was greater in number. This is a warning to Quraysh, and it's also strengthening for the Prophet ﷺ. It's a reminder to the Prophet ﷺ that you are on the side of strength. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is on your side if you're faithful to Him, and the angels are on your side. And any part of the message of this surah is an encouragement to the Prophet ﷺ that there are faithful believers even from among the jinn, even if your people rejected your message. And this part of the realization of this ayah happened where? Not necessarily. Because that wasn't a punishment for really anyone. Before that, Badr. There were two armies fighting on that side. From the way that from what people could see, the army of Quraysh was much bigger in number, much more well equipped, and much more powerful than the small band of Muslims who weren't prepared. But the band of the faithful was, the band of Quraysh was أضعف ناصرا وأقل عددا. They were, despite what it may have appeared to them, their army was weaker and they were greater in number. because the believers had faith on their side, they were reinforced with 1,000 of the angels in ranks, and before that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was on their side. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِن يَنصُرْكُمُ اللَّهُ فَلَا غَالِبَ لَكُمْ وَإِن يَخْذُلْكُمْ فَمَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يَنصُرُكُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes to your aid, no one can defeat you. And if He forsakes you, no one can grant you victory after Him. No. Continue.
قل إن أدري أقريب ما توعدون أم يجعل له ربي أمدا.
The Prophet ﷺ, who had been warning his people, and it's as if we know from the Quran the frequent response of his people to him that would be in mockery, and you are warning us of such and such, you're saying that such and such is going, you have to show it to us. The Prophet ﷺ was commanded to say that that's not my job, that's not, I have no knowledge, I have no power over that, I don't know anything about that. قُلْ إِنْ أَدْرِي أَقَرِيبٌ مَا تُوعَدُونَ أَمْ يَجْعَلُ لَهُ رَبِّي أَمَدًا. I have no power to do that, and I don't know when it will happen. I don't know. I don't even know in a general sense. Is it close or is it far away? In this ayah, قُلْ إِنْ أَدْرِي. The word in here, what does it mean?
توكيد حرف توكيد.
Sheikh. Yes, it means no. It means it's a negation.
Yeah.
And يقول ما أدري.
Yeah.
لا أدري. That's what it means. We talked about this before. The word in the Quran has 3 different meanings.
تأكيد.
It means like actually. It's like indeed or actually. It's like ta'keed. That's one meaning. And it means it's a negation, like ma or la. It means the sentence after is being negated. And then if. It means if. It's like condition. No, this is a negation. In adri means I don't know. Continue.
عالم الغيب فلا يظهر على غيبه أحدا.
The Prophet ﷺ was commanded to say, عالم الغيب فلا يظهر على غيبه أحدا. He is the one who knows what is hidden. And he doesn't show his secrets or the unseen that belongs to him. He doesn't show it to anyone. Part of the context of this, it's interesting to reflect that part of the context of these last few ayahs in the surah is, the surah that where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes part of the jinn. Many people are misguided into believing that they can use the jinn or somehow offer something to spirits or demons and somehow predict the future or know the future. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayah commanded the Prophet ﷺ to say, he is the one who knows the future. And this is what this phrase indicates. Alimul Ghaib means that's exclusive to him. And he is the one who knows the unseen, what is hidden. He is the one who knows the future. He is the only one who that description belongs to. The jinn don't know it, the angels don't know it, and the Prophet ﷺ was commanded to say, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. He's the one who knows the unseen, the hidden, the future. فَلَا يُظْهِرُ عَلَى غَيْبِهِ أَحَدًا. And he doesn't show his secrets or what is hidden to anyone else. And in this expression in the ayah, there's again something that we have talked about before. الإظهار في موضع الإضمار. Using a proper noun when you would expect a pronoun. Where is that in the ayah?
عالم الغيب فلا غيب هي الهاء.
There's two words. The word غيب, غيب, it's repeated. And it would have been understandable if it was said, and outside of the Quran, عالم الغيب فلا يظهر عليه أحدا. He is the one who knows the unseen. He doesn't show it to anyone. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala repeated that word, غيبه. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't just say the unseen, He said His unseen. This is an extra emphasis that what is unseen, the future, the past, what things that are beyond our understanding, are His exclusive property. No one has the power to see those things except for the Creator subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not a prophet, not a spirit, not a jinn, not an angel. It's His exclusive domain, and He doesn't show that to anyone, except for the specific exception in the next few ayahs.
إلا من ارتضى من رسول فإنه يسلك من بين يديه ومن خلفه رصدا.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said the only exception to Him showing the unseen to anyone is a messenger, not just any messenger, and it's not up to a person to decide that they're going to be a messenger. And even that messenger isn't given an open book. إِلَّا مَنْ يَرْتَضَى مِنْ الرَّسُولِ. The only exception is a messenger that he has selected. He is the one who selects the messenger. It's not up to the messenger, it's not up to anyone else. إِلَّا مَنْ يَرْتَضَى مِنْ الرَّسُولِ. If he selects a messenger, فَإِنَّهُ يَسْلُكُ مِنْ بَيْنِ يَدَيْهِ وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِ رَصَدًا. If he selects a messenger, in that case, he stations a guard in front of him and behind his back. We read the word rasad before. And the word rasad, it's like a singular, but it means plural. It's like jaysh. It's singular, but like army. It's a singular, but there are many different people in army. Rasad is the same thing. It's like, before we said it means an ambush, but that wouldn't be appropriate in this the context of this ayah. It's like a guard. A guard, it's ready. فَإِنَّهُ يَسْلُكُ. فَإِنَّهُ يَسْلُكُ. The word يَسْلُكُ is from silk. What does silk mean? Silk is a kind of fabric, but that's not.
Silk. In Egypt, they use it like any wire.
They say that now they say like an electric wire. Silk is the if you have a pearl necklace, silk is the thread. And the verb, it means to like thread something, like to insert something, to put something, to fit something into something else, like you thread that string through the pearls. Like in the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah al-Zumar, أَلَمْ تَرَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ أَنزَلَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً فَسَلَكَهُ يَنَابِيعَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Don't you see that Allah sent down water from the skies and then inserted it into springs in the earth? And it's often used to mean people going through a valley or going through a path. Even in the surah we read before, the same words in the surah we read, the last surah, Surah Nuh. لِتَسْلُكُوا مِنْهَا سُبُلًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala laid down the earth for you to go through. And the meaning of salaka, it's like the part of the meaning is that you all fit in these broad paths. All of these pathways are broad enough for you to all fit through. Now, but the meaning is then to plant, to insert, to station. Now, continue.
ليعلم أن قد أبلغوا رسالات ربهم وأحاط بما لديهم وأحصى كل شيء عددا.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that anyone he has selected to deliver a message, he guards are stationed in front of him and behind him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stations those guards to ensure that they will deliver the message from their Lord. This is like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Ma'idah, يا أيها الرسول بلغ ما أنزل إليك من ربك وإن لم تفعل فما بلغت رسالته والله يعصمك من الناس. O Messenger, convey what was revealed to you from your Lord, and if you don't do so, you haven't delivered His message. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَاللَّهُ يَعْصِمُكَ مِنَ النَّاسِ. And Allah will protect you from the people. And don't worry if people are against you, don't worry if people disapprove, don't worry if people want to attack you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guarded you, and He will ensure that His message will be delivered. The word يَعْلَمْ, the beginning of this ayah, what does يَعْلَمْ mean?
No.
It means to know a lot of the times. Here, and from the context, the best translation is to ensure. And it doesn't always mean to know. Sometimes it's like from alama. What's alama? Mark. To mark. Like in the ayah we read in Surah Al-Ma'arij. وَفِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ مَعْلُومٌ لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. In their wealth, there is a fixed portion or a fixed right for beggars and for the poor. Meaning, that's something that they make a point of. It's not just random. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about His chosen servants in paradise. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make all of us among them. أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمْ رِزْقٌ مَعْلُومٌ. Those people have a fixed provision for them. It means, it's not just random. It's marked and singled out. It's specified and dedicated for them. It's not leftovers. And then there's also an expression in the Quran, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about the children of Israel, قَدْ عَلِمَ كُلُّ أُنَاسٍ مَشْرَبَهُمْ. That means each tribe had a different place to drink from. That's how you translate that expression. It doesn't mean that each one knew their own drinking place. It means that they had a different drinking place. And there's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ حَتَّى نَعْلَمَ الْمُجَاهِدِينَ مِنْكُمْ وَالصَّابِرِينَ. We will try you and test you and we distinguish those who truly struggle among you and those who are truly steadfast. There are several other ayahs like that in the Quran. وَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ نَافَقُوا وَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ اللَّهُ in Surah وَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will distinguish, will make a difference between those who are faithful and between the hypocrites. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that He stationed guards before and in front of and behind any messenger that He has chosen to ensure that they relay the messages that their Lord gave them. وَأَحَاطَ بِمَا لَدَيْهِمْ. Ahata, that word is from ha'at. Where's ha'at? Wall. But oftentimes it's used to mean and not the wall, but an orchard that is surrounded by a wall. It's used like that in a lot of ahadith describing different orchards in Medina. Ahata, the verb, it means,
Circle or surround.
literally it means to surround something. But usually it's used in a kind of figurative sense, meaning to have something, to be in complete control of something, and something else is at your mercy. Like we talked about the man who found the branch, and he said, فَلَمَّا اطْمَأَنَّتْ فِي يَدَيْهِ رَأَى غِنًى أَحَاطَ بِهِ وَازْوَرَّ مَنْ يُحَاوِزُ. When he found that branch, he said, I now have riches in my possession. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, بَلَا مَنْ كَسَبَ سَيِّئَةً وَأَحَاطَتْ بِهِ خَطِيئَةٌ. And those who are, their sins have have overwhelmed them. وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لَكَ إِنَّ رَبَّكَ أَحَاطَ بِالنَّاسِ. We said to you, your Lord has, all mankind is in His hand, and they are at His mercy. And in that ayah we're talking about in Surah Yunus, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about people who are in a storm at sea, وَظَنُّوا أَنَّهُمْ أُحِيطَ بِهِمْ. They realize that they are helpless, and they are at someone else's mercy. And then the phrase لَدَيْهِمْ, this also, مَا لَدَيْهِ, it's two words, but it's like, when they're together, they're like a phrase. And this is not an exact translation, but it means like a person's achievements, or something that makes them special. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about in Surah Al-Kahf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about Dhul Qarnayn. Yes. كذلك
وقد أحطنا بما لديه علم.
Close. كذلك وقد أحطنا بما لديه خبرا. And everything, all of his achievements, all of his accomplishments, they were all done with our consent. They were all under our supervision, our power. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and He described some people who split up into different sects, and He said, كُلُّ حِزْبٍ بِمَا لَدَيْهِمْ فَرِحُونَ. And every group was proud of their own achievements. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about the record keeper, the angel who keeps a record of a person's deed. In Surah Al-Qaf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَقَالَ قَرِينُهُ هَذَا مَا لَدَيَّ عَتِيدٌ. It's as if, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his companion will say, this is what I've done, it's ready. It's like that, the meaning of that ayah is that he's saying, I've done my job. And I've done my job, and I did a complete good job, and it's ready and prepared here. And there's a hadith in Sahih Bukhari that when Umar radiallahu anhu was on his deathbed, he made a request. He sent his son. Who was his son? Abdullah ibn Umar. He sent him to Aisha with a request. What was that request? And he wanted to be buried next to in her house, next to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What was her answer?
Well, she was planning to...
No. She said, I have been planning to save that for myself, but I will give it up to him today. In that hadith in Sahih Bukhari, it says that when Ibn Umar came back to Umar, and his father said, مَا لَدَيْكَ? And what have you done? And have you done a good job? And have you achieved anything? And there's an old poem, مَلِكٌ مُقْسِطٌ وَأَفْضَلُ مَنْ يَمْشِي وَمِنْ دُونِ مَا لَدَيْهِ الثَّنَاءُ. And that's Al-Harith ibn Hizah. He's talking about a king, and he said, وَمِنْ دُونِ مَا لَدَيْهِ الثَّنَاءُ. And any praise you give him, it's beneath what his real achievements. This is the opposite meaning of that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that anything that the messengers do, it's not their own virtue, it's all at His mercy. everything that they do, it's all in His hands, subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has control over everything. No messenger is given an open book, and no messenger is given the power to determine other people's faith. They have a specific job, and they are ordered to do as they are commanded. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that everything they do is under His power, under His authority. وَأَحْصَى كُلَّ شَيْءٍ عَدَدًا. And nothing happens without His knowledge. Everything they do is recorded by Him in exactly, number by number. Alhamdulillah, this is the end of Surah al-Jinn. We'll stop here tonight and continue tomorrow. Allahumma arhamna bil-Quran. Allahumma ij'alhu lana imaman wa nuran wa hudan wa rahmah. اللهم ذكرنا منه ما نسينا وعلمنا منه ما جهلنا وارزقنا تلاوته آناء الليل وأطراف النهار واجعله حجة لنا يا رب العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت وباركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. جزاكم الله خير.